Hey Garth, how's it going today?
Jason, it is really good. We're recording this earlier than it's been dropped, but it is like minus 27 in Toronto right now. It's pretty crazy.
Takes a
Talk
little
about talk
resilience
about
to get through
resilience.
those days. I know. It went from minus 25 to about plus 10 here in
Oh,
Calgary, so it's
wow.
absolutely beautiful.
Nice.
Garth, I got a question for you today.
Yeah.
Can you, in a snapshot, tell me about your greatest sports achievement?
Wow. My mind automatically goes to my U20 basketball team here at Havergal College.
Nice, nice.
We always go into the playoffs as the underdogs, and we always come through. It's amazing. We had a game against another school. We were down 18 at the half, and I borrowed from Bell and Tim. It's like,
Mm-hmm,
how do you want to feel? What's your intention in the second half?
mm-hmm.
We want to win. Girls were down by 18 points. You got to forget about winning. How do you want to feel at the end of this game? And yeah, all-star player, actually a great soccer player and basketball player, student athlete Peyton scored the tying bucket. 10
Mm-hmm.
seconds left, and we won it in overtime. I love that because these girls just believed. Ted Lasso,
Well,
you got to
a lot of
believe.
lasso in there, Garth.
Yeah,
How
yeah,
much do you think that has to do with built resilience inside your team? That the work you've done previous to that.
yeah. It's a great question. I think as they say, there's no such thing as failure, just learning. And
Mm-hmm,
to come in as underdogs, you got to have lost a couple.
mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I think we do a good job of processing those losses and making it a little bit more positive. So
Right on.
yeah.
Well, in today's podcast, we follow up on resilience, a conversation we had with Henry last week, and we
Yeah.
delve into all sorts of things, everything from academic articles to the world of sport, and I hope to share a thing or two about resilience.
Yeah, we hope you enjoy, listeners. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, folks, welcome back to Lassoing Leadership. I'm your host, Garth Nichols.
And I'm Jason Rogers, and today we're wrapping up our exploration of resilience in leadership as part of season 2. We're taking a dive into top 10 facets of leadership, and this season has been packed with insights, and we're excited to reflect on what we've learned so far.
Yeah, in this episode, we'll tie together our discussions on just one of those facets of leadership, and that's resilience, what it means, how to develop it, how leaders can foster it in others, and what we learned from our special guest, Henry, from last week. It's a fitting way to celebrate the journey so far and to set the stage for what's next.
And don't get me wrong, Garth, I love having experienced leaders on the show, but there's something I really love about having youth leaders on the show. And we saw it with your basketball
Yeah,
team last season, and to have Henry on here this season was a real highlight for me, and I think it was a highlight for him as
for
well.
sure. For
But
sure.
before we get into it, we want to remind our listeners to keep those questions coming. They are truly the heart of this third part of every theme. You can reach us through lassoingleadership@gmail.com, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Your questions help shape these conversations and make this podcast richer for everyone.
Yeah, and we do have a couple of questions today, which is great. So here's my question to start us off on this pod as wrap up. Jason, have you spoke with Henry since the pod has landed?
And I think this is great. I have, Garth, by the way, and
Yeah,
I think this is part of a great part of being a small community. Like many of our independent schools are out there, as I see Henry almost every day in the hallway, and we connected. I've connected actually with his mom as well, and we've chatted about the podcast. Henry had a
nice.
great experience. Was really happy with how it turned out, and so are we. I mean, that was a thrilling podcast, and I think there's something about sharing your leadership journey that gives you um, you know, gives you a bit of agency in your own leadership. You own it, right? You
Yeah,
own what you're up to. You own your background. You own your experience. And I think too often in leadership, we kind of hide behind that. And that's what I love about this pod, but I also love talking to Henry. And I think Henry really felt that in the end of it all. So very grateful to Henry, but also I think he's grateful to us. So it's kind of nice that way.
Nice. Yeah, I love the conversation. And I think my big takeaway was that Henry just embodied resilience.
Mm-hmm.
He did speak bravely about his own challenges, but he focused more like on his purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And we know from our conversation with Belle and Tim, which is, I think it's episode 11 of season 2, that being clear on your purpose is a major factor for buoyancy, right? For resilience, to keep pushing even when the times are hard. And if you haven't listened to it, go back, because he just talks about, well, I don't care what people think. I'm just going to keep
Mm-hmm.
going because it's important to me. I love
Mm-hmm.
it.
And I think, think back to Belle and Tim and Henry as well. And again, I encourage people to get back to Belle and Tim's conversation. So good. I think it starts with understanding our purpose and then building out our values, right? And Henry clearly has this deep-seated value of inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
How do we include all members in our community into all
Yeah.
parts of the experience? And I think that value of inclusion is deeply rooted in Henry's experience, whether he knows it or not. He's going from the playbook that Belle and Tim are laying down in how to navigate life. And yeah, just really remarkably value driven, purpose led person. I think.
Oh,
Yes, Garth, do you have anything to add to that?
yeah. At the first time we started talking about resilience and perseverance, you had mentioned a TED talk by Jason Elliott, and I think
Yeah.
draw our listeners back to that, because he describes resilience as the quote the positive capacity to rebound from uncertainty, failure, or even positive change and increased responsibility. And I think that's
Mm.
really interesting, because resilience is usually thought of as something that's difficult, hard, or
Mm.
challenging in a negative way. You also have to be resilient through positive change, because change is like, it's change. It's hard. And as a leader, there's a whole suite of skills. There's a whole industry about change management, change leadership, two very different things. But it's a key feature also of servant leadership, something you know all too well, Jason. You are an expert in it. So I really enjoyed that TED Talk.
Yeah, I think you've hit on something really important there. I think too often in our leadership, we tie resilience to that negative experience. We're waiting for like something negative to come up that we have to build a resilience for and we need to respond to. But like you said, Garth, and in the TED Talk, resilience is required when we change positions, when we take
Mm-hmm.
on new roles, and when we add responsibility. And I think oftentimes, and I hope leaders are reflecting about this as they're listening here, is like we feel inadequate because we need to show resilience when we take on responsibility. Because sometimes, it's just implied that we'll be ready for it.
Mm.
So I think it's really important to level that and name it to tame it. As we take on new roles, responsibilities, there is going to be challenge, change, all the rest, and we will need to have grit and perseverance to get through it. And I think
Yeah.
that's at the heart of all of this.
Yeah. And I think, too, the challenge and opportunity for leaders who position themselves as servant leaders or believe themselves to be servant leaders is to actually move a little bit more proactively. So building resilience and perseverance skills and mindsets, even when there's not something that they need to be resilient for, though sometimes getting up on a Monday in negative 27-degree weather might be. But like building these supportive relationships, helping them see their potential, we can prepare for adversity in advance, much like in sports. I think that's going to be really critical.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, in that last podcast as well, Garth, we've talked a little bit about change and innovation. I'm sure you've been thinking about change in leadership over the last while and how it layers onto this. Did you have any follow-up thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think in terms of change leadership, you have to be very, very clear. We've talked about this before, Jason. You have to be very clear. You have to have a vision. You got to sell people into that vision, or get people to invest in that vision, or even better, get people to believe and adopt that vision, right? So I started there with the base layer, right? And then you move to investing. Yeah, I get willing to put my energy into this, but really to get them to own it and make sure it's their vision as well. And I think that change leadership is so important. And we've referenced John Cotter before. He's got some great stuff about change management, change leadership. And that position of leadership is more powerful when people wherever you are in the hierarchy in the org chart, people see themselves as having that, being empowered and having that agency to lead with that vision.
But I think, Garth, too, what you really leaned into there, whether it's Cotter or otherwise, it shows up everywhere in the educational or leadership research, is the fact that having a clear vision at which people can follow and strive towards is absolutely essential when we think about people having perseverance and grit towards something. If you don't have that clear vision, people don't have something to hang on to. They don't have something to strive towards. And then, of course, we're not going to have the wellspring of perseverance that's required to achieve that goal. And whether it's, innovation or system change or any of these things, I think starting with a clear vision, being a servant to that vision yourself, and then distributing the leadership to support the sustainability of that vision, I think is absolutely critical at the process of change. So lots to come out of that for sure.
Yeah, and I, referencing back to Henry too, like change agency, right? He is a change agent. Probably got that space and confidence from being a Rundle student, but that's being an agent of change is also you have to have a certain level of resilience and perseverance. But
so
let's get to some listener questions.
Yeah, I agree. And kind words about Rundle, but I don't think that's true. I think a lot of Henry's resilience has come through personal life and experience, and his family is absolutely remarkable in supporting him in that as well. So let's get into questions. My first question came from a colleague and a friend, and we're talking about resiliency through change. So the specific question that came out of this is, what strategies can Garth recommend for resiliency through change? It seems like he's the guru in this space. So what would Garth say about that?
Yeah. So for me, one of the most powerful things that leaders can do to help others through change is to help them envision the future.
Mm-hmm.
That means collaborating to understand the vision, all those great things, but on the ground, to understand the rhythm of life, like what's ahead. And as a leader, what are the stressors? What are the challenges, the joys? What are the cultural moments that this change is going to sort of sweep over? How can you use these moments to support that change, build capacity for others in that change? So I think literally sitting down with a calendar, going through, whether it's a school or whether it's an organization, what are your cultural moments? What are all those things that are going to be shaping your time together over this change? And you will demystify time, right? You'll demystify the future. You'll bring a little bit more clarity and certainty to uncertainty, and you're developing a roadmap. So in that way, you build collective resilience and prepare your teams to thrive. I think road mapping here is essential.
I agree, Garth. And I think the other thing there too is preparing people for change of course along the way. I mean, nobody realizes a vision in a straight line. And I think, laying that foundation for, yes, we've laid this out. Here's the timetable. Here's the calendar. Here's where we're going. And it might not go exactly as we thought. Somewhere along the way, we are going to, catch a headwind or a tailwind, and this is going to push us slightly off course, but this is where we're headed. So I think laying that foundational bit down as well, I think is helpful for people in the midst of this, this tsunami of change that they may be facing.
Yeah. All right. Our next question is about resilience and sports. And we've had quite a few sports people on this show in the past. And we also love our sports. So, Jason, what is a lesson that sports can teach us about resilience? And maybe drawing on your own sporting history.
It's a great question. Super timely. I'm glad this question was asked. I was out earlier this week with 4 friends, which I grew up with 30 years ago in S2E21, Saskatchewan. We all played basketball together. One had flown in from Australia on a family vacation, and the others live in the Calgary area, but we rarely get together. What we talked about was a little bit about the good old days. We talked a little bit about the championships, about the ups and downs, about our teammates. But more than anything, we talked about our families, about our lives, about our triumphs, about our challenges. And we were really quick to connect in a trusting way that you wouldn't regularly have with a group of peers. And so what this teaches me about resilience in sports is it does not end with a game. You get into these environments, and it is about winning and losing, and we certainly are happy about winning a provincial championship. But 30 years later, what's important is that we've got these bonds that have lasted 10,000 days, and I think to be resilient, you have to develop these strong relationships, these strong bonds, whether it's through sports, whether it's through community organizations, whether it's through your church, whether it's through volunteering. And that will support you through the trials and tribulations. And certainly, even at our age, we are faced with life challenges that require resilience. And that was a night out of the blue, 3 hours of filling my cup, giving me strength. And I hope they felt the same way when they left. And I suspect that they did. So I think that's where sports comes in.
I love where you took that question, and your answer, that you need a strong network, and you might have, and that means drawing on people you may have worked with in the past. It means you're drawing on networks that you've had from the past, or, when these networks are forged in fire, sports sometimes does, build strong places to go back to, as you say, get strength and fill your cup. All right. As we close on this chapter of resilience, Jason and I wanted to leave you with a few resources to explore further. And the one that I want to recommend, that we want to recommend to you, is the Harvard Business Review article called "What Leaders Get Wrong About Resilience." And it, for us, is a must read for understanding the common misconceptions about resilience, and offers thoughtful questions for leaders to address it effectively in their organization. So we'll put that in the show notes, because resilience it's a bit of a buzzword these days, but you can get it wrong when you're trying to build resilience in your team. So HBR, it's a great resource. We've talked about it in the past. We'll link to it here. Check it out.
Just one more of the great resources that we've shared throughout this 3 podcast series. We'll keep linking them in the notes, and we encourage everybody to go back and piece them off one at a time. You don't have to boil the ocean. Take one TED Talk or take one article, give it a read over a week and reflect on it. We hope there's something for everybody in these resources.
Yeah. So with that, thank you so much for listening. Like, subscribe, all those great things. And we look forward to our next theme, our next sort of trio of conversation, which will be about inclusivity and respect in leadership, or leading with inclusivity and respect as well. We'll see where we take this, Jason. I'm excited.
Me too, Garth. That's going to be a great triad. We'll be back next time with more insights and special guests who are sure to inspire us. Until then, keep reflecting, keep learning, and keep leading
the Lasso way. Nice.
All right. Take care, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Step up to the mic. It's time to play. Lassoing leadership every day. From the pitch to the boardroom, lessons call to mind. Keep leading the lasso way. You'll find we've got heart, we've got soul, and humor too. Exploring how TED shows what leaders should do. With Garth and Jason, we dive right in, breaking down TED's world. Let's begin from AFC, Richmond's Field to your day-to-day. Lassoing leadership's here to stay. Keep leading the lasso way. Together we'll grow stronger every day. So plug in your headphones and let's start the show. With lessons from TED we'll learn.